everything he's ever written, whatever topics might be of interest to you. And then, of course, getting around the site is really, really easy. Up at the top, you see things like services and contact are front and center, really easy to understand. One last point to amplify here is you've got the date up at the top. It says June 28th is when this post was put up. This is a really common feature of all blogs, is that when you write an update, it's got that date up at the top. Now, that's something you might take for granted, that you put something up like an email and a post, and it has a date on it. But what you're actually telling your readers is that this is going to be an ongoing relationship. You're making a little bit of a social contract with them, that in the future there will be more information from you. Think how different that is than the traditional static website of a big corporation, where you never know if any human wrote this, and you never know if there's ever going to be any updates to it. It's a real dramatic difference for your business, and it really shows that you're interested in communicating with people over time. So what have we shown the strengths of with this site? Well, again, we've established expertise. Even something as simple as having your face front and center shows that there's a person standing behind this message. It doesn't just show that you've got that personal voice. It shows that you have confidence in the message that you're putting out there and that you're an expert. You also are showing how well you know your customers. In this case, where Robert's got this kind of informal cartoon, he's showing he knows they're going to respond to that sense of personality, maybe even a little bit of playfulness that everybody else in his market doesn't have. And then again, this blog looks as good as anything that the biggest companies in the world can put out there. But what he's also done is saved himself time. Instead of having to repeat this message over and over and over of something he's learned about running a small business, and hopefully, hoping he gets somebody on the phone to tell them that, it's sitting there waiting on the website for them to come and visit, or delivered to them on their Google or Yahoo homepage or through an email newsletter. And so he's amplified the benefits of his smart thinking and shown more and more people, maybe even when they weren't actively thinking of buying his services, that he's thinking of things that can be useful to them. That's one of the great things about a blog, is that you can be kind of nudging those customers to think about you and put you top of mind, even when they otherwise might not have been. In a similar vein, we've got someone like Mike Wilkie, who's got a company that's called CFO Advantage. And what they're doing is selling their professional services of a chief financial officer to small businesses. And what they needed to do is establish the case for why this is an important, valuable thing for a business to have. And that's a real common challenge for small businesses, is just making the case for why you have this product or service in the first place. In their case, they started the BizSense blog. Now, CFO Advantage has its own traditional website that they've had for probably years, up and running, and it does its job. It's got their phone number and their email address on it. But it doesn't have any way to show why their type of expertise is so valuable that businesses should be buying it. And so what Mike has done here is regularly posted links and updates from around the entire web that are pertinent to his industry. Now, a couple things happen here. One is he's not having to write all this original content himself. He can merely find an article that he thinks is interesting and provide value to his customers or potential customers by sharing that insight that he's found. Now, this is the kind of thing where it'd be really intrusive if you did this just emailing links constantly to every customer that you have, saying, read this article, read this article. But on a blog, it's actually providing value, because they can say, I've got 5 minutes of downtime on my lunch break. I want to know what the latest is about this part of our industry. Who am I going to go to for that kind of authority? Well, maybe it's somebody like Mike. There's also another point here, which is if you're doing business online, and probably if you're on this call, you're savvy enough that you have a presence on some different social networks. Like you might have a LinkedIn profile for your professional resume, or you might have a Facebook profile for some of your personal or professional contacts. Maybe even a Twitter account for updating people on your status. The great thing that's happened here is Mike's got all that connected right in the corner of his site. And so you should still have a presence on those sites. They don't compete with your blog, but your blog acts as the hub connecting all those pieces together. Because frankly, let's face it, what you share as a photo on Flickr or Facebook might not be the first impression that you want people to make of your business. So by having a blog, you know that first place that's going to be the definitive source of information about your company is going to be the site that you control with your blog. And then if they want to find out more about you as a person, they can go out to that LinkedIn profile, that Facebook profile, and dig in for more information about this person that they want to do business with. In a similar vein, we look at something like Michael Maslanka, where he's got a site called Texas Lawyer. Guess what it's about, right? This provides that really, really clear example of how, a lot of times a customer is going to go to Google or whatever search engine they use, and they're going to say, I'm looking for a Texas lawyer. Well, by having those terms prominently on your site, you're much more likely to show up in that search result. He talks about the topics that he covers in terms of employment law, labor law. He mentions the region that he's in, which is in Dallas, and of course the firm that he's a managing partner of. All those things are making him much more likely to show up when you search for any of those terms. In addition, he's taking a look at a recent Supreme Court case and analyzing it in the context of what's going to be useful for his clients. Now, this is one of those great demonstrations of expertise where he's probably inevitably going to get this question from one or two of his clients. What does that case mean to me? What he's getting back, and the benefit of this, is instead of answering it once in one email to one client, where it would get less valuable over time because that email might get lost or deleted or archived, he's putting it on a blog where it gets more valuable over time because more and more of his clients can see it. People who aren't yet his clients but are just looking for context or information about this case can find it. Even better, all of those people that he allows to can comment on this and say, well, we had this experience, or this is really helpful, thank you for this. Those act as testimonials that people can read and learn from and respond to over time. And that's without having to prompt them. You can even get feedback from your customers about what they want to see from you in terms of, we really like this product, or this was really useful for us. And think how expensive it would be to try and do a focus group or to do a survey of those customers. If they're offering it up for free in the comments of your blog, you've got a really, really inexpensive way of learning from what they tell you. So again, both these examples, these are independent professionals, and like a lot of us, they really want to distinguish themselves as experts because they're competing with much, much larger corporations. Or a lot of times a big monolithic law firm is competing against a small firm with only 2 or 3 partners. And if you can establish your expertise and really clearly show how well you know your customers, you're going to stand out. This is also saving a lot of time, right? These are very, very busy professionals, right? If you are one of those key people whose billable hours determines how well your company does, you need to be as efficient as possible in sharing that message. One really interesting last case study to point out here is this is a restaurant in San Francisco, actually not too far from our offices where we're based, and it's called Contigo. And you see this actually a lot of times. Restaurants have their own websites, and what's different is, first of all, it looks like a regular website. Like we know, well, why is this a blog? It looks really similar to every other website. Well, that's actually one of the great points about it, is it can look like a regular website, but be as easy to update as a blog. So when you see something like they're going to be closed for Memorial Day, well, they're probably going to be closed the 4th of July too, but instead of having to ask somebody to update their website to make that change, they can go in and make that change themselves. There's, of course, that email list subscription box, or widget as we call them. That's a really useful feature for people to be able to, again, know when there's going to be a special or know when there's something added to the menu. All the usual information in terms of directions and press reviews and things like that have been incorporated into this blog type site. But the key thing here is that they don't look second to any restaurant in the city. No matter how new this restaurant is or how limited their budget is, by using a blog, they're able to look like the equal of any restaurant anywhere. The great thing here is that a section like the press section, when a new review of their restaurant pops up, it's really simple for them to update and share those links, just like we saw with the law blog or the CFO blogs earlier. So that ability to do those updates is really, really different. And the great thing about this is the kind of site that is pretty easy to read and respond to on a mobile device like an iPhone or a BlackBerry or any of those other mobile sites. And so the nice thing about that is traditionally a lot of restaurants are going to have a very complicated what we call a flash site, which is, you've seen those where they have all kinds of animation and pictures going. Those don't show up at all on a mobile phone. And so if you happen to be near this restaurant and want to look up the information on your phone, if you're using one of those old-fashioned sites, it might not show up. But with something like this, it's really, really easy for people to find the site and find the address, maybe make a call and see if they can get a table for 6